thinking, which is not far off from the truth, is that as a leader, you have two jobs. You have your daytime job, the 8 to 5, but also you have the job of managing people or leading people. If you ask me, I think the job of leading people is actually harder than your daytime job. Many times before you're promoted to a leadership role, you've already exhibited undoubted competence in your role that you can actually do, that you can perform. So there's a certain level of excellence that you've already brought to the job in terms of your area of competence or expertise. The latter, which is now leading people, becomes extremely difficult. So what's people-centered leadership? Without complicating it, it's really showing up as a human at work. There've been a lot of literature around the different leadership styles, but one of the emerging and what we believe is going to be one of the most transformational leadership styles of the 21st century, I think we're in the 21st century, right?
Yep.
Is going to be human-centered leadership. Why is it important? Most of the work that has always kept us busy as leaders has been largely automated. From an HR perspective, one of the things that kept us busy was, for example, being the custodian of the employee file, being the one to collect the confidential documentation, going through the intricacies of what has this person submitted, etc., and being the owner and custodian. That has now been fully automated, which means that if we don't change the way we lead, if we don't transform our minds in terms of what else can we bring to the table other than these mundane tasks that kept us busy for a very long period of time, it's going to be very difficult for us. So human-centered leadership is really just showing up as a human at work. And how do you show up as a human? The first one is to demask yourself. Demask. Demask is, in COVID, most of us really enjoyed wearing our masks and walking on the streets. And for you guys who are celebrities, it worked for you because you're thinking, you have this little smirk on your face knowing that these guys haven't identified who I am. As leaders, I feel like naturally there is that mask that you wear on a daily basis. It's like a priestly robe, whether you like it or not. Yeah.
So why do you have to demask?
Why do you have to demask? Remember, we say that you need to show up as a human being. If you wear your mask, it means the contact, the relationship, the conversations with the different people that you lead are going to be very difficult because they can't see beyond the mask. Before we become leaders, we're individuals. As individuals, we're innately flawed. In leadership, there is this perception of the leader is perfect, knows it all. And so how do you demask? There's so many things that you can do. Shirley mentioned that we're trying to do a culture transformation journey. And before we embarked on it, we had conversations with our people. One of the most outstanding feedback was there is a huge divide between the leadership and the rest of the staff. And I know that that is not unique to Postbank. What puts us at a greater disadvantage is that we have over 800 staff spread across 60 locations. So for them to have that intimate relationship with the leadership, there has to be a lot of intentionality from leaders, from the team that sits at head office, from the teams that sit at the region, etc. Demasking means that you acknowledge yourself and say that I am a human, I'm innately flawed, and even as I present myself to my team, I need to be very self-aware. So for example, as a leader, I know that I have faults 1, 2, 3. And there are so many tools on the market right now that can help you identify your personality, your leadership style, your flaws, and how you can address them to be able to effectively lead your team. You need to have a very heightened sense of emotional intelligence.
This is new B words. So emotional intelligence would be in respect to what you're talking about. What does that mean?
So emotional intelligence means that trying to get the right way to phrase it. As an employee, as an individual contributor, you have a lot of leeway to randomly comment, to randomly react to things, to randomly you know, I don't know, pull out of tasks, etc. As a leader, you can't. Because the moment you come with a level of randomness or unpredictability, you sway the rest of the team in a wrong direction. So as a leader, you have to consistently double check yourself and say, okay, fine, this has happened. How do I react in the moment that won't disorient the rest of the team, that won't disorganize or push us further from the purpose that we're trying to achieve as a team. You need to learn to manage your emotions. There are certain times when you'll be tipped off because you're human. Don't remember who the author or speaker was, but there is a famous saying that goes that people don't work for organizations, they work for their leaders. So regardless of how I feel about Postbank or this large institution that I'm working with, what's very important to me as I show up to work on a daily basis is the relationship between me and my line manager. So if I come in and I know that my line manager can't be trusted, he doesn't have my best interests at heart, he's not fair in terms of allocation of KPIs, in terms of appraisal, in terms of promoting, recommendation for salary increments, I will absolutely bring almost 50% of my potential to work. So it does contribute to the top line and eventually the bottom line. We can actually make a quantitative case for it, but also there will be the qualitative aspects of it. The qualitative aspects are the ones that you think are immeasurable. Most of the important things are actually immeasurable. They're intangible. But in their absence, you will feel their impact. For the quantitative aspects, because we believe that behaviors are foundational in terms of performance. So we've gone ahead to identify the 4 key behaviors that we want to measure across the bank, and that's passion, that's integrity, we have innovation, as well as teamwork. Under each behavior, we provided descriptors that speak into the behavior competences required for every person. So under passion, there will be something like meets deadlines. There will be something like gets work done. And that can be quantified. So if you rate someone, you say you're an A player in terms of getting work done, there is no way their upper number is going to be negative. Yeah. So we've tried to incorporate those aspects into the balance scorecard so that we don't just preach about them or sing about them, but they're actually practical, but also measurable. And they say if you can't measure it, you can't get it done. Last year we sat down and drew up our long-term strategy. Not really long-term, our strategy from 2024 to 2028. And we're very clear on what pillars we want to push through. Number of pillars, there is service and innovation, there is that's where Wendy sits. There is risk management, there is performance, which talks about all the beautiful numbers that Paul was asking about. But then also there is people and culture as the anchor of that entire journey. And we knew that for us to be able to move our people or our performance from where we are to where we want to be, from a 27.5 billion company to probably a company that is making 100 billion in PAT, from a bank that has an average productivity, because right now our average productivity per employee, we track it very closely on a monthly basis, is at 13.7 against an industry average of 18.7 million per employee. So
per what? Per month?
Per month. Okay. Yeah, but averagely it's the same as per year. Yeah. So those are the numbers that we're tracking. A couple of years back, those numbers, those metrics were not very important. Right now they are, because they help to guide each single decision that we make in terms of human capital on a daily basis. If a branch comes and says they want an additional 5 people, my question is, what's your productivity? How much are you milking value from the current resources that you have? So one, we have a big dream that we're trying to achieve as a bank. We have this large purpose of fostering prosperity for Ugandans, and our job right now is to align each of our people, both from a hard target perspective, but also a behavior perspective, to be able to move, to sail in one direction and achieve this big dream. automation is going to take away the mundane aspects, but it won't take away the thinking aspects, the critical thinking, judgment, empathy. And that's why I was saying we need to show up as human beings, because the things that made us relevant yesterday won't make us relevant tomorrow. Will we lose jobs? I would say, for example, now that we have Wendy, Wendy came to set up a platform where the bank can easily drive the agenda of financial inclusion. Before PDM was onboarded on Wendy, our branches were swamped with very lengthy queues of PDM participants trying to withdraw their money, trying to fill in the paperwork, etc. Wendy has been able to take away the queues from the branch. But right now, the team that was supporting Wendy at that point is required to do something else. Is required now to onboard other non-PDM customers onto. Is required now to do a lot of sensitization within the communities. Is required to onboard more agents so that whoever is onboarded on on Wendy does not have to withdraw their money via MTN or Airtel, because then they lose out on the benefits of lowered withdrawal charges, etc. So our job as human capital is try to understand if this bulk of the work that has been keeping this individual extremely busy has been taken away because of automation, how else can they contribute? How can we reskill them in the meantime to prepare them for that potential opportunity or responsibility? So I feel like there are lots of things that we can do from a management perspective, but ultimately it zeroes down on the individual. How quickly are they willing to adapt to the new circumstances? How much work in terms of preparation are they putting in? How vulnerable are they to say that this is a new thing? I wasn't born in the computer age, but now the computer has come in to, literally take over my work. What else can I learn? How else can I contribute? And for me, I'll speak to the responsibility that I have as an HR person is to create opportunities for them, is to create different learning and development avenues for them to be able to get those skills that are needed tomorrow. In terms of actual readiness, I also think the workforce needs to put in a bit of work, but I don't think it's a challenge that needs to keep us awake. Communication is going to be one of the number one skills that we must develop. We need to develop that communication muscle. I'll tell you, I am an introvert. I enjoy my book and coffee in a corner. Yeah, and I'll be happy, but I'll deliver. But over the years, I've realized I actually need to communicate. And there is nothing like over-communication. In fact, if you want to emphasize something, you must over-communicate. So communication is going to be very, very important, and not just top-down. It has to be bottom-up, lateral, horizontal, cross-functional, etc. So communication is going to be extremely important. Active listening, I know, is also part of communication. As leaders, we've been groomed to be the ones to share all the time. But there is a lot of beautiful things that we miss out on when we don't actively listen. So communication, I think, is going to be very important for me and for any other HR leader. When you communicate, when you're on the ground, there are days where I throw away my shoes and I wear my sneakers. I just move around branches to understand what's happening, what's ailing you, so that I'm not just making policies out of what I believe is best practice or what I believe the bank should be able to do, but I'm making policies that are going to address real-time issues that are facing people on the ground.